Everyone, welcome to the 14th annual Arlington Heights Memorial Library Teen Film Fest, coming at you virtually. This year, we're doing things a little bit differently. We have our stay-at-home challenge, and we got some amazing movies that were submitted. So many great films. Up front, we do want to let everyone know we are recording this. We are recording this fest, hopefully for, just posterity's sake. Historians will study it, and then we may want to watch it later on as well. We have, like I said, so many films for us to watch. We're going to be meeting all of our filmmakers and having a conversation with them. A reminder to all of you filmmakers, please remember to change your names to say that you are a filmmaker so that we are able to easily bring you up on the video. Also, if you're having any issues or questions, pop those into the Q&A, and there's library staff here that is ready to help you out. I want to introduce our awesome judges who are joining us, though. They are all veterans of judging the Film Fest before. Let's start out with Matt.
Hello. I'm Matt Lauterbach. I did get the chance to judge last year, and it was a blast. Last year I was also the Arlington Heights filmmaker in residence. So I have come to really love the library and miss being in the space with you all, but I'm so glad that they're able to host a virtual space for the fest.
And Tamara, let's get to know Tamara.
Hi everyone, I am Tamara Chambers. I am an actress in Chicago, and I also review movies on YouTube, so very prestigious work. I've had the pleasure of doing this fest twice now as a judge, and I'm so happy to be back, especially in this really cool challenge. I think it's really neat that we still get to do this. It's so cool.
And last but definitely not least, Daniel Carpenter.
Hey guys, I'm Daniel. Welcome. I'm glad you guys could make it. Seriously, this is going to be really fun. I am a filmmaker of many years, and 2 of those years have been spent judging this festival. It's been wonderful. I love seeing the local talent and seeing your creativity. Currently, I do a podcast in addition to my film escapades as I try and figure out how I, too, can creatively work with this interesting new world that we live in. I'm currently, I just moved to Austin, Texas, which is where I'm staying, as my full-time job is now finding a full-time job in the creative world. So that's me.
And Daniel, do you have any experience with the Teen Film Fest before?
Not at all. I've only been a part of it 3 or 4 times as a filmmaker. So I don't know anything. No, seriously, I have, it's fun. It's a great way to learn, to grow, to find ways to kind of refine your craft. So I'm really excited for that opportunity. I love judging here. And I'm not saying that because I'm paid to. I'm saying it because I believe it. So you guys are in for a treat. This will be a lot of fun.
It's always so cool when we're able to have former former participants, former filmmakers back. That's one of my favorite things, just how long it's been going on. So a question for our judges before we get going. When you are watching all of these films, what are you looking for as you're judging them? What are the real attributes you're keeping an eye out for? Let's start with Tamara.
Well, I mean, first of all, I'm always blown away by the amazing differences that we get throughout all of the films. So everyone brings something so unique and so interesting. And I guess I'm just looking for that. I'm looking for everyone to just go 100%, really just as creative as possible, just throw everything at it. And just really looking forward to seeing all of the differences between all of them. So just really looking for all this creativity in this really stifled world that we're in right now, I think is the biggest thing.
How about you, Matt?
I'm looking for, do I get pulled in? Do I get involved and forget, how much time has gone past? It's not a good sign if I press, pause and see how much is left But it's a great sign if it's over before I know it, and I'm like, well, that was fun. I want to watch that again. And so, yeah, that's what I look for. How pulled in do I get?
Awesome. How about you, Daniel?
A lot of people like to define creativity as thinking outside the box. I like to think of it as thinking inside the box, just differently. And with COVID-19, there's a lot of opportunities that we no longer have, but there's also a lot of opportunities that are there, but a creative mind that can find those opportunities and work with them, especially as a filmmaker, working with limitations. I can't really gather all my buddies together to make a movie, or maybe just one or two, but what can I do with the resources I have, no matter how limited? So I'm really excited to see how that pans out this year.
Mm-hmm.
All right, awesome. So before we get going with our films, we did want to do something a little fun. We have some fun questions we wanted to ask our judges, and then we're going to put them to our audience as well. So let's see, we had a little PowerPoint. So the first question, we might have it coming up on screen in a bit here, but it is a would you rather. So, would you rather be an extra in an Oscar-winning film or be the star in a box office flop?
What an amazing question.
That is one of the
All
best I've heard.
All right, Matt, you want to kick it off?
Oh man, the first half when you said that, I was like, oh, hands down, extra in an Oscar. But then I just can't pass up the opportunity to be a star in a flop. That just sounds so fun. Count me in for that.
How about you, Tamara?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think one of my dreams is to be a part of a flop film and to kind of have that on my resume. Maybe not to forever be known by it, but definitely to have it there and like kind of what I'm known for a bit. I would absolutely love that. Yeah, absolutely. Count me in. I want to be in the room. I want to be in something like that. Check that off the list.
All right. How about you, Daniel?
Well, so many people have already said what I wanted to say, but I think I'm going to switch it up. I would love to be an extra in an Oscar-winning film because the conditions for this Would You Rather are not pertinent to what exactly I would be doing. So I'd love to do something quirky, something noticeable. People be like, hey, that guy's interesting. And then who knows? And yes, I will say it would be a blessing to be a part of a flop, but an extra, I don't know.
Well, even better would be an extra in a scene that got cut from an Oscar-winning film.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Excellent answers. I don't know. For me, I'd have to go with the star in a box office flop because I'm getting paid star money either way. All right, let's go with our next question. It's another would you rather. Daniel, would you rather do all your own special effects makeup or do all your own stunts?
Oh my gosh, stunts. I can't do makeup, special effects, or otherwise to save my life. I would much rather, kung fu chop wood or jump off buildings, because at the end of the day, that would be awesome. I don't know.
Awesome. How about you, Matt?
Well, I value my life, so I don't know about doing my own stunts. Doesn't seem like a good idea for me. So I'll just go ahead and do the special effects makeup. And if it's a horror movie, then I'll do great.
Tamara?
Yeah. I think, either of these would be so cool to be like, I was in this film and I also did this giant part of it. But I have a bit more experience with the special effects. So I think, though I am extremely athletic and could easily jump off of buildings with my motorcycle onto a trampoline, but I think that the effects makeup would be more my speed.
Fair enough. I don't want to do any of those things. I abstain. All right, let's see what is next. All right. So what is your favorite movie genre? Action, comedy, drama, horror, or sci-fi fantasy? Let's start with Tamara this time.
If we do like a DE scenario, like a The Thing kind of deal, horror, sci-fi, fantasy. That's definitely what I gravitate towards. I mean, simple answer horror, longer answer horror, sci-fi, fantasy.
All right. How about you, Matt?
You know, the first half of E is just I will watch every sci-fi movie I can, and it's actually hard because I've watched them all, and it's like there's not enough. I'm always like searching the genre in any streaming category for sci-fi movies I haven't seen, and very hard to find.
How about you, Daniel?
This is a harder question than I thought. I was at first like, movie genre. That's easy. And then I was like, yeah, I picked that, and oh no, they're all good. I would say sci-fi fantasy. I think it's an umbrella of which you can kind of rope everything in together, trying to do a catch-all answer. So as Tamara was saying, a sci-fi horror or, sci-fi comedy. I always love how people are able to make these vast worlds and then just find new ways to explore familiar ground, kind of what Matt was getting at. So yeah, I definitely gravitate towards that.
Awesome. Okay, last question. It has to do with your favorite movie candy. We took the 4 most popular movie candies, and we want to know what your favorite is. You want to kick us off, Daniel?
Of course, Sour Patch Kids.
Sour Patch. Oh yeah, I should have read the options for everyone. They are Twizzlers, Junior Mints, M&Ms, or Sour Patch Kids.
Sour Patch Kids are a love-hate relationship, I will confess, because I pop it in my mouth, and the first flavor I'm introduced to is this abysmal sour, causes my tongue to contort in all sorts of grotesque ways. I'm like, I hate this. And then the taste that follows is that of sweet, sweet tranquility. And then I'm like, well, I can't stop at just one. So it's a complicated relationship, but Sour Patch Kids.
All right. How about you, Tamara?
Twizzlers. 1,000,000,000%. Very mild. Can keep eating it throughout the entirety of the film. Twizzlers for sure.
I'm with Tamara. The Twizzlers for sure. Although, if there were choice E, I would submit Rolos.
Oh,
Interesting. Interesting. I think my instinct was to go to Junior Mints, but a whole box of Junior Mints is too much for me. Like if I have someone to share it with, Junior Mints are perfect. But a whole box of Junior Mints on my own, I'm not sure I could do. It's too much. It crosses the line from candy to toothpaste a little.
yes. Yeah, it skirts that line. More than a handful.
All right. So we are going to put up a poll with these exact questions for our audience. We want you to answer these. We're going to use them for a pretty fun game later on. So judges, if you can see that poll, I don't know if you can, look away, close your eyes, because we want everyone's answers to be secrets from you. So we'll give everyone a chance to do that. I do also want to let everyone know you will have the opportunity to ask questions of our judges and our filmmakers using the Q&A feature on Zoom. Please make sure you let us know who the question is specifically for. Either it's all judges, or if it's for a filmmaker, make sure you name the filmmaker so that we can make sure that we get the right question to the right person. All right, we'll give a few more minutes for folks to vote. Should have put that up a little earlier, I guess, guys. I get it. They're hard questions.
Hey, at least it's not what's your favorite movie. Right, yeah. I have an answer, and then every day I switch my answer. So.
Oh, did you switch it from what we had up on our promo video?
Uh-huh.
You know, that's a good question, and I feel called out right now. I think it's just, for me, it's also favorite movie, and then how do I define it? Because I love rewatching certain movies, but there are some movies I don't want to see a second time that were great the first time. So I guess I gravitate towards like comedies and like lighthearted stuff more. But the darker stuff, while I don't know if it'd be great for me to watch it all the time, it's the stuff that also sticks with me. So it's complicated.
All right. Well, folks, finish up their voting. I think we are going to start our next film. So
Yay.
our first film of the evening is going to be the movie Spark by Jeff Buck, which we are going to put up for you now.
Sometimes I wish we were like smartphones where we just need to plug ourselves in to recharge, but not have to power down to do so.
Oh my.
Oh, awesome. So I would like to invite Jeff Buck up to join us. What an awesome film.
I know. I feel like we should clap. That was so
Yes.
good.
I guess they can hear us. They can hear us. I bet everyone is clapping at home too. Absolutely.
Hello, I'm here.
Hey, Jeff, how are you?
I'm all right, thanks. How are you?
I am well.
It's great to be
Have
here.
you been getting enough sleep? I just felt like that was something I had to ask you.
Yep. Yeah, I've been getting in sleep. I wish I could use an arm-mounted charger, but sometime in the future, hopefully.
Awesome. So let's start giving you some feedback from our judges. Daniel, do you want to start us off?
With pleasure, absolutely. Jeff, I love how you tell a story, especially with yourself, Dingy Dog. The way you communicate information and time lapses, what a good use. I get a sense very well throughout most of this film of like what's happening, what the conflict is, what needs to happen. And I think you did a great job overall at conveying that information. And yeah, it was wonderful. I think one critique I would say is I think towards the end, I think the pacing gets a little fast. And I would love to see kind of some more time for people like me to absorb kind of what was happening. Because I think towards the end with that YouTube video and stuff, it got a little like, wonder what's happening here. But overall, I think excellent job with your creativity, with your editing, and the resources you have.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to hear you say that. Storytelling is one of my favorite parts of the whole filmmaking experience, and it makes me so happy to hear that my storytelling technique has had a positive reflection on a filmmaking connoisseur such as yourself.
Oh, thank you.
I think you have your new business card there, Dan.
Hey.
How about you, Tamara?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought this was so great. I think you took the challenge and you totally nailed it. The acting was excellent. I really enjoyed your prop work. I love making props, and I thought that the charging device was super cool. And everything that you used seemed really purposeful and like it had really been thought out. It was really exciting to watch. I especially really liked the like the bike, the crosswalk, the road sequence that we saw a few times. I just thought it was such good storytelling. It really kept moving it along really well. I think like the only thing really that I was a little muddy on was maybe like after he had started using the charging device, there was like he went in for like a nap really quick, and I was like, I don't know if we maybe like a couple little tiny shots could have been cut out just to even streamline it a bit more. But I absolutely loved this film. I thought it was so fun, really cool to see it build up to that last bit and that last like crazy storm part. Loved that. Just had a blast. I would love to know how long this took you to make as a one-man crew.
Thank you. I'm glad. First of all, I'm glad you liked the prop. That was just as fun to design as it is to see on screen, both on paper and building it in real life. I started the story right around the beginning of the summer, so around like June. It took a couple weeks to develop the script and storyboard. There wasn't a lot of scripting because there are no words in the story, but I had to plot out the actions. Then there was filming, and I stayed on a good schedule. I worked for about 2 hours a day for another like 3 weeks or so. It wasn't always 2 hours a day. Sometimes it'd be 1, sometimes it'd be 4. But so that took about another month. month and a half. Then there was editing, and that part, I've been using the software for like 3 or 4 years, so that took about 2 weeks, but then I had to re-export the entire clip library after there were glitches. Otherwise, I uploaded to YouTube, it was glitching all the time. I had to delete each clip and then put it back in and re-edit it, and that took 3 days.
Always, always that kicks your booty in his editing.
Yes, it was painful, but it made it even more satisfying to just kick back and watch it. I was afraid I'd be sick of watching it. I watched through it like 50 times in post-production, but I sat back and I was just so happy to see this masterpiece up on the screen after all my hard work. And
good for you. That's awesome.
I do want to remind our attendees, if you have any questions for Jeff, you can pop those into the Q&A. There was a quote I just read like today. I don't remember what famous person said it, but it was that a movie is written 3 times. First as a screenplay, second with the camera, and third in the editing booth.
Could not be more correct.
Yeah, I think your experience really exemplifies that. All right, Matt, what are your thoughts?
Well, Jeff, I am an editor, and that's how I can tell you really know what you're doing, because you've clearly planned your shots out with an editor's mind. You know the sequence that you're going to use your shots in. And that's really cool to see that, you've got everything planned out in terms of what sequence of shots will make sense for the story. And like you said, there's no words. This is all pantomime. That's even harder to do. You have to clarify everything visually. And it's really cool to see, such craft put into this. And I'm not surprised that it took you as long as you said. I think that this is the 3rd time I've watched it, and I did now understand the ending. My critique was the same as Daniel's, which the first time watching it, the end seemed to come very quickly, and I didn't have quite time to wrap my head around it. And I would say that on 3rd viewing, I totally get what you're going for. And maybe there's just like 1 or 2 extra little nudges you can give the audience to just clarify. But so my question for you, am I correct? Was it all a dream that was inspired by a video that you were watching before you fell asleep? Or am I taking it too literally?
You are absolutely right.
All right.
And in case I think you understand this too, but the power went out when he had neglected to charge himself, and then he was running low on energy. So he had to rapidly find a source of power. He went to the car, he electrocuted himself, and then he woke up, and yes, with the video.
Right.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah, no, so I enjoyed the sequencing, I enjoyed the buildup, and the payoff is the only thing that I think, if you had the bandwidth, see if you can try to give that just a little more space so that the audience can be there with you. But yeah, really, really great work, and it was a pleasure to watch. And I also remember your creation from last year, because who can forget that credit roll at the end?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Evan, I have a question for Jeff as well. I forgot to say earlier.
Sure.
Jeff, so it sounds like you're incredibly organized with this, which is hard to find with creatives. But just being on top of 2 hours a day, 1 hour a day. But I'm interested to know, what was an important lesson you learned that this movie taught you?
This movie taught me, I already knew this, but it was good to have a reinforcement. Always set the finishing deadline a good deal ahead. If I had waited until August 1st, I know it got extended to August 4th this year, but if I had waited until the very deadline, it might not have made the cut. So budget your time, because time is very valuable. If you have extra time to work on the film, just go ahead, don't hesitate. It might seem draining. There are parts that are just like, oh, why do I have to do this? But in the end, it's so worth it. It's so rewarding. So yeah, budget your time and plan ahead. Look for things that might be able to go wrong, and you should be able to crank out a masterpiece.
Nice.
Awesome. And we do have one question for Jeff from an attendee. How did you do the filming, and who helped?
Primarily, so some of the shots were using the active track feature of the gimbal stabilizer that I was using, where the phone camera can lock onto a subject and follow it. Primarily, I was using just stationary angles. I would put it on, I used like 3 different size tripods for different locations, low down angles, on the table angles, or just high up. And for the moving time lapses, because it looks like the camera's moving with the time lapse, that's another feature of the gimbal, where the gimbal will move very slowly, but the phone will record in time lapse. So when you play it back, it looks like the camera's moving normal, but everything else is fast. So yeah, stationary angles and features of the gimbal I was fortunate enough to be able to use.
Very cool. All right, let's hear it for Jeff. Thanks so much for joining us.
Of course, I'm glad to be here. I love this festival. I'm glad it was able to work out this year.
Yeah, so are we. Thanks for coming.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right, I think our next film is called Astoria, and it's by filmmaker Charlotte Stallman. Oh boy, that was so awesome. I don't know about the rest of you, but I stole a bunch of ideas for my next D&D campaign from that. So filmmaker Charlotte, I would like to welcome you up. Here she is. Hey Charlotte, how are you?
Charlotte.
I'm good.
Oh, thanks so much for joining us. Tamara, do you want to start us off?
Absolutely. Charlotte, I loved that. First of all, stop motion can be so tedious and so difficult, and you were telling so much story, and it truly was just a magical experience. I absolutely loved it. So bright, so colorful. I absolutely loved our villains, the trolls. It was really, really great to watch. I think one thing that could take it just to the absolute next level is if you found like a background song or background music to put over the entire thing. There's a few of the sound effects that I otherwise liked, but they could be a little jarring, a little abrasive, or a little too loud. And if you had like throw through, what is the word I'm looking for? All the way through background song, I think that would really help give it a more seamless transition kind of deal. But overall, it was super fun to watch, and I really want to see a second one. Do you have a second one planned? Because I loved that at the end there.
Or is it?
Yeah, exactly.
I do not currently have a second one planned, but I probably am going to make one.
Yes, I love it. I can't wait to see it. Yeah, I think just some music behind it would totally take it to the next level. But it was super fun. Great work.
All right, I do want to just throw in there something I noticed after watching it for the fourth time. The facial expression you chose for your sort of protagonist's little mini head, the little was so perfect, and like it's so hard to give a Lego person personality, but that is exactly what my face would look like 100% through that experience.
Yeah. My
What did you
Lego
think?
doll, I happen to have here wearing a cute little dress.
Oh,
Two
there she is.
expressions. She
So
has
she-
one on the front, the smile, and then one on the back.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
awesome.
so cool. That is awesome.
That is so awesome.
What a great actress.
What did you think, Matt?
So I really enjoyed just how ambitious the scale of this was. You had multiple locations, multiple timelines, and a gajillion characters. And just like Tamara said, everything's so bright and colorful, and it was a lot of fun to watch. Now, I have never done stop motion. So the central mystery for me is, how do you make the shots last as long as you want it to last on screen? And I'd say that that's one of my critiques for you is figuring out that balance of just how long does the stop motion movements need to carry over in order for it to make sense on screen for the viewer. And there were certain moments, especially I'd say towards the end before that big battle, where there was a rapid sequence of 3 or 4 things that happened. And each time it goes by a little too quickly for me to be able to follow. And so really trying to give your audience time to take in all of that, all of those wonderful imagery that you're sharing with us. We just want time to process it. And so that would be my main critique. But I'm curious, that bookcase in the beginning seemed very mysterious to me, and that sound effect, it seemed to me like it was transporting her. I'm just curious if you can tell us a little bit more about that sound effect and what you had in mind for that opening.
Well, the sound effect is a edited bell-like thing from the iMovie sound effects, and it does kind of teleport her through different dimensions.
Gotcha. Cool. That's what I assumed, and I'm glad I followed that correctly. That's great. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome. How about you, Daniel?
Well, I gotta say, my feedback is pretty much a hodgepodge of what Matt and Tamara have already said. But I agree with Matt. I think this is such a ambitious stop motion project. You have to make all these sets. You have all these characters, and you put multiple timelines. I think you excel at giving us small visual cues as to what's going on, whether it's the sound effects or my personal favorite, those flashes of white to bookend the flashback. I was never confused about that. I was never like, are we still in a flashback? I knew where I was, and I had a sense of momentum in the story. Even though the pacing sometimes speeds up a lot, especially towards the middle end and the end itself, I was still able to follow along like, okay, I sense this is where we are in the story currently. Another thing I'd say, which Tamara was excellent in bringing up and describing, but you have such a creative voice when it comes to the visual. I'd really like to see what you do with the audio. I think the sounds that you included were a bit jarring for me. They were brief, they were in, they were out, and this is a mostly silent film, but filling in those sounds, thinking of what would my characters sound like, or perhaps if there's a war going on, what would that feel like? It would be awesome to see what you could do with that, but overall, well done.
All right. That was so great. So we do have one question from an attendee. So Charlotte, how did you come up with the idea for your story?
Well, like my sister Margaret told me that about the film fest like the day before I had to go through a long car trip, and most of the sets were like the film, like the backgrounds were sets, like Lego sets that I already had and built. So I was kind of thinking in the car, like, what can I do with like the sets that I already have? So then I knew that the evil fortress that I had would be a great evil fortress for like any occasion. So
I love that.
So I used that, and then I kind of worked that like a magical book, like a magical necklace bookcase into the because I like the idea of like the traveling dimensions and stuff. And then it all just kind of grew off of each of it. It just like grew like as I kept coming up with ideas, and I had most of the sets I already had, as I already mentioned, but like a few of them, like the room with the bookcase in it, I built from scratch for the film festival, and I'm gonna keep that for a while because I like the rotating bookcase into a secret room. And then I just kind of came up with the rest while I was on the car ride, and I was thinking like, what the Lego sets do I already have which I can use.
That was a productive car ride.
Yeah.
Also, I challenge everyone appearing for the rest of the film fest to come up with a better sentence than an evil fortress for any occasion. I think that might be my favorite sentence I've heard all week.
That's t-shirt worthy.
I was going to say, I need that on a shirt.
Absolutely. Charlotte, thank you so much for submitting a film and joining us today.
Thank
you, Charlotte.
Thanks, Charlotte. Thank you so much.
All right, and our next film has a long title, not our longest title, but a long title. It is called Historical Flashback, World War II and COVID-19.
Oh,
hi, Nana. How are you?
I'm busy, just doing things, you know.
Oh, Nana, can you tell me a story about when you were little?
World War II, the biggest and deadliest war in history, involving more than 30 countries, sparked by the 1939 Nazi invasion of Poland. The U.S. technically didn't join the war until 1941, when Japan attacked the United States at the naval base, Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. It was a Sunday morning, December 7th, 1941, when the Japanese bombers appeared in the sky over Pearl Harbor. The U.S. military was completely unprepared for the devastating surprise attack, which killed 2,403 service members and wounded 1,178 more. 6 U.S. ships sank or got destroyed, and 169 U.S. Navy and Army Air Corps planes were also destroyed by the attack. This historical moment will never be forgotten, as we remember the lives that were lost and the historical significance associated with the attack. After all, the U.S. declared war on Japan the next day, December 8th, 1941. Not only did it change the fate for Americans directly affected by the attack, or those who later enlisted to serve their country in the war, but it also changed the lives of almost all American civilians. Civilians like my grandma, who was just a child living in Chicago during the times of the war. After the Pearl Harbor attack, nearly every American feared that the enemy attacks would occur on the mainland too. In an interview, my grandma describes the reality of these fears.
Our mother, she was like one of these people that, okay, we're going to be fine and don't worry, and she was like that. She did not put this all on the kids to scare us.
Do you think she was scared though?
Oh yeah, sure. I'm sure.
As a result of this fear, many more local civil defense units quickly formed. Civil defense refers to a system of defensive measures designed to protect civilians and their property from enemy attack. The U.S. civil defense systems during World War II included bomb shelters, air raid warning systems, patrols along the nation's border, and distribution of information on emergency survival. But perhaps one of the top concerns for civil defense organizations at the time was air raid protection. To aid people and educate them on how to stay safe, the Office of Civilian Defense published a booklet called What to Do in an Air Raid and printed 57 million copies along with information in local newspapers. As visible, the booklet advised Americans to identify a central refuge room in their homes and provided information about how to stay safe if air raids should occur.
We would practice. We didn't have a basement, but we would practice where would be the hiding place, which be under tables.
Yeah.
Things like that, where we could, hide in case there was a bomb going to be. But when we were doing the air raids, I thought, and my friends, that, we're going to be safe because we're doing what we're supposed to do. We're in the basement, we're covering our head, and we're doing and if a bomb fell, we'd be okay.
Thankfully, no bombs ever fell, and the emergency plans were never called into service. After hearing my grandma recall her memories from World War II, I can't help but notice the similarities between the procedures for the air raid warnings and what's going on today with the coronavirus pandemic. Similar to the civil defense measures used during World War II, coronavirus shelter-in-place requirements prioritize safety while consequently instilling fear. A report shows that by mid-April, a third of the world's population was on some form of coronavirus lockdown. As we experienced in Illinois with the stay-at-home order first issued in March, we were asked to keep refuge in our homes, similar to how my grandma identified refuge rooms during World War II. But instead of remaining in lockdown for only minutes at a time, it lasted months. With about 4.4 million confirmed cases and over 150,000 deaths from the coronavirus in the U.S. alone, it is essential that we work together to help flatten the curve of the coronavirus. Because the virus is so highly contagious, the best way to prevent the illness is to avoid being exposed. According to the CDC, the virus is thought to be spread mainly from person to person, and especially through respiratory droplets produced when an infected person coughs, sneezes, or even talks. That's why it's really important that we all wear masks and practice social distancing to reduce the spread of the virus and the pressure on healthcare systems. It's also important to note that the pandemic, its economic and its social effects have had a huge effect on people's mental health. Job loss, business shutdowns, closed schools, and fears of getting infected with COVID-19 have fueled a surge in reported cases of anxiety and depression among adults. These fears are valid for just like how no one knew whether an air raid was going to occur on the mainland, no one knows who or how many will fall victims to the coronavirus. Just as World War II came to an end in 1945, I have faith that the coronavirus pandemic will eventually end, and I will be able to safely hug my grandma again.
Awesome. So I would like to welcome up filmmaker Lydia Orta.
Hi.
Lydia, how are you?
Hi, Lydia.
I'm doing well.
Oh, thanks so much for joining us. That was such a great film.
Thank you.
Matt, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I noticed now that I'm wearing headphones is just how great your sound design is. I watched it with a toddler and a baby running around the first time, etc. But this was the first pure sound environment that I watched your film in. And yes, this really seamless sound design, music, sound effects, your voice, all flowing really well and matching really well with the visuals. And so I thought the pacing was really great. I thought it was smart. It was really engaging to watch. And I think that the main critique I have is there's a point during the coronavirus section of the film where I think your tone changes a little bit, and it becomes a little more almost like encouraging action rather than thinking about connections between World War II and today. And I really love the voice that is making connections, but then the voice that's a little more like, you know, we should all do this, and you know, that felt a little more like a different kind of project. And so that's my main question, is just to kind of think about, you know, is there a way that your grandmother can be just almost an equal presence in the coronavirus part? And is there a way that you're thinking about your grandmother can be, you're thinking about her in the present as well, and the coronavirus and the impact on her? That's something that I would have really been interested in. And so that's actually my question for you is, you know, how does your grandmother find the impact of coronavirus?
Yeah, for sure. In the beginning, she was quarantining a lot. And so that was like, I feel like for her, probably the mental health part of it too, just being alone, and like she lives alone. So that's what kind of inspired that part. And then like now she's getting out more, especially because it's warm outside. And so like I saw her earlier today with masks, like social distance outside. And so now I think it's a little better, and I think we're all learning to cope.
Yeah. Well, I just loved thinking about the parallels between the two times, and really enjoyed, you know, how you broke it down and the comparisons you made. So thank you.
Thank you.
Before I throw things over to Daniel, I do want to give you a comment from all the librarians. Thank you so much for citing your sources.
Yes.
That was our favorite part. But yeah, Daniel, you wanna take it over?
With pleasure. I gotta say, I really love how you weave multiple storylines into a cohesive thread throughout all of this. I think I'm familiar with World War II just from hearing about it in school, and of course we have so many movies about that time in history. But getting to see, okay, here's an overview of World War II. How does it relate to COVID? And you show us, and you use so many different sources. You use the impersonal facts and figures, and you use your grandma as the heart of the story. There's kind of this personal stake in everything. And I really like how that all fits together. Similar to what Matt was saying, I actually found that in the beginning, there were a few things that I feel could have been summed up a bit more concisely about World War II, getting more into kind of cutting to the chase in terms of the air raids. I think going into more detail on that would be great. I think also, I mean, you have done some impressive research already, it seems. And a question for you would be the animations. How did you do them? I'm really curious. I don't know how to draw, but I'm interested to know, how did you capture that and how did you integrate it into your film?
Yeah, of course. So I actually used something called Procreate, which is like a drawing app. And so I just drew from hand there. And then I like exported time-lapse videos of me drawing them and then put them into like the film and edited those.
Awesome.
Excellent. And Tamara.
Yeah. Lydia, I loved this so much. I think that your ability to give us facts, but also it's so heartfelt as well, and weaving from this history that's so important, but then to what we're all dealing with right now. And it was, I felt such a seamless transition, and like everyone said, having your grandma in there as well just really brought it together really nicely. I especially appreciated you talking about mental health at the end. I think that's not really being talked about enough right now for what we're all dealing with. I loved it so much. I thought it was really great. I was really impressed by it. And just small technical thing is just a few times with your voiceover, which you did an amazing job with. It really matched the tone. I thought it was so well done. But just your mic just popped a bit. just a couple times. So like maybe you were just a little too close to the mic at certain points, but I absolutely loved this. I thought it was great. You have such a documentary storytelling ability. And I was wondering, is that something you're interested in? Because I would love to see more from you.
Yeah, I actually don't know what I want to do in the future, but I'm definitely keeping my options open. So
Good.
I had fun making this. So.
Oh, it was great. I loved it. Great work.
And I just want to break in, and Tamara mentioned the animation. That was such an obvious strength, I forgot to mention it. But yes, that one key moment that I really loved was when your grandmother, that photo of her, I think it was with the mountains behind her, and you outlined her before that photo appeared. I thought that was a really cool technique, and I think your next film should explore that even more.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great.
So one question from the audience, I know you answered most of it, Lydia, is how did you do the animation?
So using Procreate, I drew the images I wanted that I thought would match the, because I wrote the script first and did the research first. And so then I thought about like what would work. And then I just drew it out and then exported the time-lapse videos and edited that in. And that was pretty much it.
I love the choice of keeping the whole process of drawing it out and not just like having it drawn out, but showing you erasing and fixing and adjusting. That really added something to it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us, Lydia. That was such a great film.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
All right. We are going to take a really quick break to put up a survey to ask your attendance. We wanted to get an accurate count of everyone attending this film fest. So please answer this survey about how many folks in your household on your screen that you're answering on are attending the film fest, are watching. And while we do that, I will let the judges know, and all of you know, we are a little more pressed for time, so we're gonna push trivia maybe to the end, or maybe save you from the very challenging trivia. We'll see.
Oh no!
Be a speed round.
Guys, they were so nervous about the trivia.
I'm
they
so
were
bad
so
at
scared.
trivia. I'm not good.
We'll see. If we have to skip it, we'll do it up on social media. Make sure you follow us on Instagram. We'll do the trivia up there.
Now I have to use my acting skills to pretend to be relieved.
We will let you all finish up this survey as we get going on to our next film. It is called The Stolen Pennies by Angelina Shauna.
A father was one day sitting at lunch with his wife and children, and a good friend who had come on a visit was with them.
I'm so glad you could make it into town for a few days.
It's a pleasure, and I wouldn't want to miss out on Miss Smith's tomato soup.
Why, thank you, Charlie. Me and the children are planning on taking whatever's left in the pot to the homeless downtown tomorrow morning.
Wow, that is very kind of you to do that.
It's awfully starting to get cold out, and those poor souls out there could use something a little warm.
You know the soup is becoming a little warm.
And as they began to eat, it was striking noon. The stranger saw the door open, and a very pale child dressed in snow white came in, but went straight into the next room. Soon afterwards, it came back and went out the door again in the same quiet manner.
The stranger thought nothing of it and entered back into the conversation.
Would you like some more soup?
I thank you, Miss Smith, but I'm quite full.
Lunch was delicious. It would be an honor, though, to have you come back tomorrow and feast with us again. Why, thank you, Mr. Smith. It would be my pleasure. And thus the stranger came back. And on the second, and on the third day, the snow-white child came also exactly in the same way. At last, the stranger asked the father, "Who is the beautiful child that goes into the next room every day at noon belong to?" "I have never seen it, nor do I know who it is." The stranger pointed out to the father, who, however, did not see it, and the mother and the child all saw nothing. On this, the stranger got up, went to the room door, opened a little, and peeped in. Then she saw the child sitting on the ground, digging and seeking amongst the crevices between the boards of the floor. But when it saw the stranger, it disappeared. She told what she had seen and described the child exactly, and the mother recognized it and said, "Ah, yes, it is my dear child who died a year ago." They took up the boards and found 2 pennies which the child once received from its mother, that it might give them to a poor man. It, however, thought, "You can buy yourself a biscuit for that," and had kept the pennies and hidden them in the openings between the floorboards. And therefore it had no rest in its grave, and came every day to seek for those pennies. The parents gave the money at once to a poor man, and after that, the child was never seen again.
Excellent. That spooky little tale was from filmmaker Angelina Shana. Remember, if you have any questions for our filmmakers, you can pop those into the Q&A. Hey, Angelina, how are you?
Hello.
Oh no, Angelina, you're. Oh, it's like a spooky storybook sideways.
We'll all do it.
Okay.
Oh, good. Okay, yeah. I don't know if I could have done that the whole time.
Yeah, the phone acted weird. Sorry.
Oh, thanks so much for joining us. That was terrifying. Thank you for the nightmares.
Thank you.
That's my kind of spooky. Tamara, do you wanna kick things off?
Absolutely. Angelina, this was so hauntingly spooky. I loved it so much. I edit video for a big chunk of my job, and I don't know how to make a ghost child. So I thought it was really, really great. I absolutely loved it. I think your storytelling was excellent. And with the 2 actors you had to work with, I thought it was so fun to see you guys all with, a beard and in the different costumes. Is so much fun. And again, just so spooky and so lovely, like really, really beautiful work. I'm wondering why you chose to do, instead of acting, retelling it through pictures, because I really loved it.
So I'm actually going into photography as a profession, and I've taken like photography classes since I was a sophomore. So I just wanted to give myself that extra challenge of telling it through photos.
You can really tell that you have experience with that, because it was really beautiful. I think maybe if there's anything that you could bump it up with, which I know it's hard because you have just the 1 or 2 voices, but maybe just a bit more differentiating between the characters. But I had a blast watching this. I thought it was such great work.
Thank you.
And Matt.
Yeah, that Evan said spooky, and I 100% like that song is still in my head, and I'm looking over my shoulder. Is there anything spooky going on? I really loved the tone that you set, not just with the choice of music, but also the reading voice, kind of this kind of campfire creepy story kind of voice. Leaning in close and that kind of thing. And then like I think what worked so well about your photos that are kind of animated at the joints is that there's a sort of slow motion, surreal quality to that. You know, especially like when a character's head is bending, and it gives this kind of suspended animation feeling of you're not in reality, but you're not in, you know, dream either. It was really interesting. And I think one of the most memorable things I've seen for that reason. And I'm just amazed by, you know, not just yours, but all, like more than half of the entries in this year's festival are filmmakers doing really interesting things with software, with tools. And I'm curious, what was your tool of choice to get that sort of joint bending, almost like puppets for your photos?
So I used 3 Adobes. I used Adobe Photoshop, separated all the layers of each character, and then I plugged it into After Effects, and then I used a puppet tool, and I just animated and keyframed it all.
Wow. Wow, that's a lot of keyframing. Well done.
Seriously.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. And I think I'm supposed to give a critique as well. And Tamara did mention that, you know, you did a lot with the 2 actresses that you had, yourself and your sister. I think your sister or cousin or
sister, yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if this is the right answer, but I would almost wonder if it would make more sense for your sister to be the stranger, and then all 3 of you to be the biological family. You know, that might have made things gel a little better in my subconscious. But other than that, you know, I think you had a really great, you know, experimental animation, and it took us through quite a fun, spooky journey. Thank you.
Thank you.
Daniel?
Angelina, before I begin, I'm curious to know, you mentioned photography, but have you considered using film as a profession or hobby in the future?
I've thought of film, but like I find like storyboarding and doing like video, because I'm not the best actor, so I felt like telling it through photos, if I can make like these weird faces, I found to be easier for me because I'm not the best actor. I love editing, so I think if I was going into film, I'd go into the editing side of, because you get to like tell, like you can make a horror story, like these horror clips, into like a really sweet one. It's all, I think editing is everything, so I think I'd go into editing.
I'm pretty biased towards editing myself, a full confession. I saw the film, and then there was the titles, which were very well done. Great use of fonts and just aesthetic choice. And I was like, okay. And then we begin with the still images. I'm like, still images, interesting. And then I'm like, they're moving. What? It was such a great, and as Matt put it, surreal touch. It really helped add this hybrid of, are these images? They are, they're not. Is that girl a ghost that exists? She is, but maybe she isn't. Not to everyone, at least. And I really liked it. And what I'll end with is my criticisms really just revolve around, I don't think you gave me enough. Like, I want more of those moving images. I was disappointed to see that there's not really a lot of them later on in the movie. I wanted to see more of that. And I can't imagine it's easy to just, just throw it out there. But finding creative ways to really push that to the next level. Like maybe you see the coins kind of moving into the hand reaches out and the coins just slowly move over time. I don't know. I'm not trying to tell you how to run your own show or anything, but I think you did a lot with so little. These images and 2 actors, and you were able to tell this compelling story in its own unique way. So well done.
Thank you.
Awesome. One question for you from the audience. Did you have fun making the movie?
Okay, if I'm going to be completely honest, first half was fun. Second half, I was like being stressful. I was stressing out so much. But other than that, I enjoyed the whole process.
I think deadlines do that to everyone. But I think once you get some space, you forget about that part and you remember the fun.
Yeah.
One other thing I'll say, as a librarian and as a big movie nerd, that reminded me of a film from the 60s called La Jetée that is just still photographs with voiceover. It's like a weird sci-fi-ish, and we have it on Canopy. You can stream it from home using your library card. So your film reminded me a lot of that.
That's awesome.
All right. So thank you so much, Angelina. Give her a round of applause. We are going to lighten things up a bit more with our next film. It is called Yak.
Yak. Yak. That's me sitting on its back. Yak. That's me sitting on its back. In my stylish yellow jacket. Yak. That's me sitting on its back. In my stylish yellow jacket. In my hands I hold a sack. Yak. That's me sitting on its back. In my stylish yellow jacket. In my hands I hold a snack. On my back I have a pack. Yak. That's me sitting on its back. In my stylish yellow jacket. In my hands I hold a sack. On my back I have a pack. It is full of things that quack. Yak. That's me sitting on its back. In my stylish yellow jacket. In my hands I hold a sack. On my back I have a pack. It is full of things that quack. My mouth is slowing down. I better give its rump a smack. Yak. That's me sitting on its back. In my stylish yellow jacket. In my hands I hold a snack. On my back I have a pack. It is full of things that quack. My mount was slowing down, so I gave his rump a smack. On my shirt was Admiral Akbar. Yak. That's me sitting on his back. In my stylish yellow jacket. In my hands I hold a snack. On my back I have a pack. It is full of things that quack. My mount was slowing down, so I gave his rump a smack. On my shirt is Admiral Akbar. I get my work done on a Mac. Yak. That's me sitting on his back. In my stylish yellow jacket. In my hands I hold a snack. On my back I have a pack. It is full of things that quack. My mouth is slowing down, so I gave its rump a smack. On my shirt is Admiral Akbar. I get my work done on a Mac. I'm traveling the world in front I wave hat to Jacques. Yak. That's me sitting on its back. In my stylish yellow jacket. In my hands I hold a snack. On my back I have a pack. It is full of things that quack. My mouth was slowing down, so I gave its rump a smack. On my shirt is Admiral Akbar. I get my work done on a Mac. I've been traveling the world. In France I wait hat to Jacques. I've got the best darn yak. Have you met? His name is Zach. Yak.
All right. That was from filmmaker Madeline Painter. Wait for her to join us. Madeline, we almost disqualified you from the stay-at-home challenge because you were doing anything but. You were clearly off in, I think, every continent you went to. You didn't seem to maintain a lot of social distance from that yak. I don't know where you got him. No one was wearing a mask. But we decided to let it slide this time. Thanks so much for joining us, Madeline.
Thanks.
Awesome. So, Matt, can you start us off here?
Absolutely. I remember your piece from last year, and I can see there's a theme. I just loved how memorable it is. And I would also, another M word, mesmerizing. I think that my thing that I kept watching for was, what's the next rhyme gonna be? And I enjoyed the not quite rhymes like Jack and Akbar. I enjoyed the, slight phonetic differences like Jacques. So you had a lot of fun with it. And I had a lot of fun watching it. And I think that what the film reminded me of actually was a little bit of the 12 Days of Christmas, where, you keep cycling back to the beginning, getting a little longer each time and a little longer in each time. And there's one thing about 12 Days of Christmas that's masterful, which is 5 gold rings, where the pattern just suddenly stops and does something really different. And then it resumes. 4 calling birds, dun, dun, dun. And I think that if there's one thing I would love to see with Yak, if there's a moment where that mesmerizing pattern can just be, broken and like everyone's thrown for a loop. Again, that's just, an idea. And one thing that filmmakers try to stay away from is telling other people, what we would do differently. But I think that's, something that could be fun to play with. And I have a question for you. And if I'd like to cheat and actually ask 2 questions. First, how many photos of yourself did you use? Was it hundreds or verging on 1,000?
I'd say, I don't know. It didn't actually take that long to take all the pictures, only like 2 or 3 hours.
Okay, wow.
So probably, in the hundreds range.
And then which rhyme are you most proud of?
I'm really proud of the Jacques, because my brother's name is Jacob, and I sometimes call him Jacques. So that was just fun.
Nice. Well, I'm sure we had just as much fun watching as it sounds like you had making it. So, thank you.
Daniel?
Wow, there are a lot of elements going on here, especially visually, and it can be so hard, I would imagine, to take those hundreds of photos that you talked about and compile them into a narrative, all while having a song and, at least I'm assuming of you, no access to any bands. You have to make your own music. I think what what I admire the most about Yak is not only the photos, but also the bold choice to have it be backed by music. And I think, as Matt was describing, I really appreciate the play on words, the lyrics. There's a lot of momentum there. There's a lot of progress being made and fun little callbacks. We're repeating the verse, but there's more rhymes being added to it. Consequently, I think the risk that you take with music, I think there are some things that could be improved that could make the experience a bit better. For example, I think there were some times when the clapping or the bass backing track was a little bit off tempo, a little bit. And as Matt said, which I think is a brilliant suggestion, finding ways to kind of break up that rhythm a little bit, keep people engaged where it's like, oh, whoa, hey, that's a new thing. That's really interesting. But overall, I think you put in so much hard work for this, and it's really interesting to watch. What was the greatest challenge, would you say, about making this video?
Well, working with the green screen was kind of annoying, and part of that was, like ironing the green screen to get rid of the wrinkles helps, but you can't film while the green screen is still wet. So that was interesting.
That's awesome.
Tamara?
Yes, I loved this. I first watched it all the way through, and then I called in my partner from the other room, was like, you have to watch this. I thought it was so funny. It really reminds me of a lot of things that you see on Reddit or YouTube right now that just have the potential to reach a very wide audience because it's so fun, it's very catchy, and it's hilarious. I think you have such a comedy bone, and I'd love to see it. I told friends about this. I had such a great time with this. I think just, what Daniel and Matt said as well, I think adding like some kind of surprise in there for us, just to kind of break things up, could take it to the next level. But I flipping loved this. I thought it was so much fun, and I could see you making a ton of these, and really making it like kind of like a series kind of thing. Not to pigeonhole you in a corner, but I love your comedic voice. I thought it was really great. Do you have an interest in making music videos or comedy videos, or are you just leaving it open to wherever it takes you?
Yeah, I like the comedy kind of, so.
It was great. You did excellent work. It was so much fun to watch.
Okay, Madeline. Our Q&A was the busiest it's been yet. Everyone had, lots of folks had some questions. One question, I think it was asked before it was answered in the song. What's the yak's name?
His name is Zach.
His name is Zach. Also, does the yak by any chance like to eat jelly beans?
Perhaps. I haven't tried feeding them to the yak.
Mm-hmm.
You never know.
You've got fans. That's a callback to last year. Anyone that hasn't seen Madeline's, I think the kids are calling it a bop, jelly beans. Check that out on the AHML YouTube page. Probably Madeline's too. Also, one other attendee wanted me to say yak. Just wanted to pass that along to you.
Simple, concise.
Yeah, it really says so much. Thank you so much, Madeline. That was so much fun.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, our next film is called Treasure. It's from a filmmaker named Jacob Painter. Awesome. That was Treasure from filmmaker Jacob Painter. I think he's going to be joining us in just a second. Oh, Jacob, I recognize that couch. I feel like I've seen that couch somewhere, but slightly different. 1 second. I think we're going to try and bring Matt back. There he is. Awesome. We've got everyone back. Jacob, thanks so much for submitting that video. I'm now going to demand that all future films have octopus holding 4 swords.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, yeah, sure. Citizen Kane is good, but does it have an octopus holding 4 swords? I don't know.
No.
Daniel, you want to kick us off?
Absolutely, I would. Jacob, that was some really good animation. There's a lot of foundational elements that you do particularly well. There's a high frame rate. You took a lot of photos, so the characters move very smoothly. The story is driven by really just the visuals. There's not a lot I would demand. The characters don't talk, and I don't think they need to. The plot kind of speaks for itself, as does the aforementioned octopus, which was one of my favorite parts. But there's also some trace amounts of what I would call home spices that you've added into your film. Just little dollops to make it even more appealing. One such detail I really love was when the scuba diver, after defeating his amazing opponent, throws the treasure chest up. It lands in the boat, and there's a little flop that the top handle makes due to the momentum. It's little things like that that really get me immersed and just make me love this so much. One criticism I would have is I really think it would be amazing to see you play around a bit with some special sound effects. Adding some sounds of objects or characters interacting with things, maybe underwater noises, the octopus, the swords. I think it would be really interesting to see what you bring to the table. My question for you would be, there's a lot going on here. What was the hardest part for you to animate?
Probably the whole underwater scene with them, because for the treehouse part and the boat, they were all just standing on a level platform. But underwater, I actually used blue tack to stick the Legos to the wall so that it actually be flat up against there. And it's a bit harder to animate with the pieces sticking to the plate on the side, and moving it around was a bit more difficult.
Awesome. So next up, we've got Tamara.
Hello, Jacob. I loved this. It was awesome. Like Daniel was saying, you added some really cool, just little details. I loved the part where the dog jumps in the water. My one question for you is, what is the dog's name? Do you have a name for this dog?
There was also a question from the audience. Everyone wants to know this doggy's name.
I need to know that this dog has a name.
None of the characters really have a name, mostly because they're not talking or anything. It's just fairly simple. They don't really need to be he doesn't call the dog or anything. It's just
dog.
Yes.
So it's up for interpretation from the audience. I love that. You're keeping it open. Nice. I think the same exact thing that Daniel said. I think if I had one critique here, because your stop motion is so well done. I've attempted it before. It's incredibly difficult and so time consuming. And it was so seamless and really, really well done. You can tell you took so long on it. But yeah, just certain sound effects would be so cool. When it comes out of the water, something just a little to add to the special bits that you've already added into it. But it was really masterfully done. Well done. Good work.
Thank you.
Awesome. How about you, Matt?
All right. So the thing that stood out for me was just how creative you got with water. I've at previous Teen Film Fest, I've seen some great, smooth Lego animation, but I've never seen water done with Legos. And the really interesting challenge about water is that it's fluid, and Legos are, stable and blocky. And somehow you made both the horizontal water environments and the vertical water environments feel immersive. And I think that has a lot to do with the motion of your characters. And I think that you start the film off with one of the best water effects, which is the dog, the unnamed dog, jumping into the water and out of the water. And that, I don't know how you did, because, the dog partially disappeared under a solid block of Lego. So I don't know where that dog went. Like, did you saw him off and so that half of his body could be in the water? I'm really curious how you did that effect because it was seamless.
Yeah, I really just, it helped that the dog was, rather than being one solid piece, was several different pieces. Because I basically just took some of the pieces off so that I could make it just rest on top of the plate. For some of the frames, I did have to like completely get rid of the dog like figure that I had and add like a different piece just because like the legs are one piece basically. So I actually had like a couple different, like the back dog legs were like a separate part, so just so that I could like rest on top of the water and then so that it like goes in.
So cool. Yeah, really well thought out. And then in terms of a critique for improvement, I totally agree with Daniel's suggestion, which is great. I hadn't thought of this, but now that he mentions it, the sound effects, I think, would really help even more to have this immersive environment feel like it's come alive. And then it would help with an additional thing that I would suggest. So in film, have you heard of the concept of continuity? So continuity is sort of in between cuts, you know, one angle and then you go to the next angle. Does the character look the same? Or, you know, is he suddenly missing a beard or something like that? And in your film, the character's hat changes when you're in a new environment. And the first time I watched it, that confused me. I thought we were looking at 3 different characters in 3 different places. And I didn't connect that it was the same person, that someone had taken out a treasure map, then decided to go to, sail and look for the treasure. And the reason I didn't follow that was because that continuity was broken. We don't see that person put on the pirate hat and then go to the ocean. And so that's my one suggestion is you could show the costume change on screen to enable the audience to be able to follow your character continuously. So, but other than that, such a smooth animation, really a pleasure to watch.
Actually, also for the, because the like whole actual finding the treasure was like a fantasy sequence, I was intentionally like trying to like break continuity, like when he jumped in the water, because like
gotcha.
The kid probably wouldn't think of like putting on a hat. It just would naturally probably happen. I do see that get confusing, so I may have them like actually switch them out. But yeah, that's kind of what's going for it.
Yeah, no, and if that fantasy is what you're going for, then your choice makes sense. And so yeah, I think then the challenge would be: is there something you can do visually that clues the audience into that this is in his imagination? So, but yeah, either way, like I really enjoyed it, and kudos.
Awesome. Some feedback from the audience. Your fellow filmmakers all had, a lot of them had something to say. David P., who we'll meet a bit later, said he loved this. Angelina noted something I didn't notice. Doggo has a pirate hat, which now I'm going to have to watch this thing 20 more times. And it might compete with my favorite part.
And Doggo has a name now, Doggo.
Yeah, Doggo. Angelina did it. And Charlotte has a question for you. Where did the Lego man get his sword?
Again, it was I was intentionally like bring continuity just because it's he just decides he wants a sword
Fantasy.
So that he can start fighting the octopus.
Because he lives in Magic Legoland.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jacob. That movie was so fun.
It was awesome.
All right, before we go on to our next round of films, we're going to do a little bit of family feuding type stuff with our judges. I have the survey up from earlier. We're going to see if they can guess what the top answers were. We'll start with you, Daniel. What do you think the number one answer? Would our audience rather be an extra in an Oscar-winning film or be the star in a box office flop?
I'm going to go with star in a box office flop.
You are incorrect. They all wanted to be an extra in an Oscar-winning film. 83% chose that one.
Well, that I'll need it.
I guess
on that one for a while.
I guess the three of us are just big egos.
Yeah, hamming it up. Yeah,
Yep.
for sure.
All right, Tamara. What do you think the audience said? Would they rather do all their own special effects makeup or do all their own stunts?
Oh man. I'm gonna say makeup.
Makeup is incorrect.
Oh.
They want to do all their own stunts by 67%.
Wow, you guys are so cool and actiony.
Matt, no pressure now. You
I
got
know,
to get
right?
this right for us, for the team.
Right, exactly. It's all on you.
Which I guess if you injure yourself, you've just done your own special effects makeup. You're like, nope, I just really don't have an arm. All right, Matt, this is a little harder. What do you think the favorite film genre was? Action, comedy, drama, horror, or sci-fi fantasy?
Well, since all three of us mentioned sci-fi fantasy, I'm going to guess that, we were wrong about everything else. Okay, I'm going to go with horror.
It was sci-fi fantasy. You should have gone with your gut.
Oh, for 3, guys.
You could have been the only correct judge. But yeah, sci-fi fantasy won with 38%. And Daniel, you're the last one. What is the favorite movie candy? Is it Twizzlers, Junior Mints, M&Ms, or Sour Patch Kids?
I'm going to take all 30 seconds to think about this before I guess impulsively. I'm going to ask my stomach what it would want and what I think the audience would want. I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to say M&Ms.
You are correct. At least one.
Whoa.
Well done. Well done.
Done.
All right, everyone can see the results there. And we are going to move on to our next film. This is officially the longest title that we have in the Film Fest. We are going to see Super Mario's Boisterous Adventure official teaser trailer.
Nice.
Awesome. I am excited to see that one. Okay, we got filmmaker Liam Ryan joining us. Hey, Liam, how are you?
Hi. I'm probably the only person here with a football helmet, if I'm being brutally honest.
Right now, I don't have any. It's okay.
Yeah.
I forgot mine.
Hi, Tamara. I watch your YouTube.
Oh, hi.
Hi. Pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, you too, Liam. Great work.
Thanks. It's
Awesome.
kind of weird seeing a celebrity say my name out loud. It's kind of the first.
I will take that as a compliment, but I'm not.
Oh, yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah, if you're wondering what the N stands for, it stands for knowledge.
I love it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Knowledge is power, and now you're playing with power.
All right, Daniel, do you want to start us off?
I would love to. Liam, I got to say, of all the video game movies that I've seen marketing for, I got to say I've never felt more hyped for Super Mario's Boisterous Adventure. There's a lot of creativity behind this. I love all the small touches, again, like the rating at the beginning, the logos, just it has all these structural components of a conventional trailer. I think that was amazing.
Thank you.
I would say one question I have for you is why Super Mario? What came up? What gave you this idea, and what made you decide to do a trailer?
So a couple years ago, if you're familiar with the YouTube channel Screen Junkies, they have a series called Honest Trailers, where it's like it's a trailer, and they're honest about it. And not a lot of people know this, and I'm glad that they don't. In the 90s, in the 90s, there was this movie adaptation of Super Mario Bros. 1, simply titled Super Mario Bros. It had the late Bob Hoskins as Mario. Dennis Hopper was playing King Koopa. Luigi was played by John Luigi Zammo. Dennis Hopper, not Dennis. Samantha, there was another actress who played, I don't remember her name right now, but she played Daisy, which is weird because like they took Peach. This movie is this movie is pain. This movie is pain.
It is.
Okay. I
Imagine being 10 when that movie came out.
I decided to make this just to, like, as a what if. What could I do to make a movie that just is better than that in every possible way? And just like.
I think I applaud your efforts. I really do. I like all the small touches, like you're using a Universal logo that I would see in the 90s. You're not using the most recent one.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to use that as like a funny reference to Scott Pilgrim versus the World, because like it had a similar logo with like the 8-bit aesthetic.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I think it paid off. I think it was really well done. One thing I would suggest as a criticism would be the use of sound effects.
Yeah.
A lot of trailers will bookend special moments or highlight certain things using sound. So that's one thing I would suggest.
Yeah, I think like the sound effect must have gotten cut off by mistake. My bad.
How about you, Tamara?
Yes. So Liam, again, same as Daniel said, I loved the rating at the beginning of the Universal, and I've been super into Nintendo games since lockdown started. So I really enjoyed that. I as well would love to see this film. My question to you was, had you seen Super Mario Brothers? But if you watch my YouTube videos, you absolutely have. And so you definitely, I think I would love to see your full length feature film. I think you could knock it out of the park. I would just like to see more, even more drawings from you and art from you.
Oh yeah. I actually have the full plot summary, like the one that it's not like one that has spoilers or anything. It just I could just read it I could just read it off my phone right now if you want.
Cool.
Why don't you share that with us, Liam, and we'll post it. We do want to make sure we have time for our other screenings.
Okay, thank you you so much. Make sure everyone has more time for their films.
Oh, totally. We just want to have Matt get his time to give feedback too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Liam, I think what you mastered with this teaser is the buildup. That's what I loved most about this was you've got, the spooky beginning, and then there's some clear emotions going on. There's some tears, some sad faces, and then it just builds. And then boom, we're like, okay, yes, I'm in. I want to see it. So that I think you did a really good job of just increasing the feeling of stakes and just climaxing with that coming soon teaser. So that was a lot of fun. I am also a big fan of honest trailers. And so my question for you is, what's the honest trailer that you would recommend everyone on this webinar watch?
The ones with Ryan.
With Ryan Reynolds, yes.
All three of them.
Perfect.
I always was, I when I saw him in the first time, I was like genuinely surprised that they got him, and it's just like funny, like how they actually, there's like a miniature lore about John Bailey like not being able to like cameo in one of Ryan's movies. That was great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Liam.
Thanks for joining us, Liam.
Great work.
That was such a fun movie. All right, we are going to now screen 2 movies in a row. Our next filmmaker submitted 2 films, so we're going to watch both of them and talk with him about both of them when he comes back. So Here comes first the box, and then malfunction.
The AI is just too unstable. It's too dangerous. I'm going to recommend they cut your funding.
Sir, we've seen some massive improvements in these past few days, and things are about to get a whole lot better, I promise you. Here's your coffee. See? Look at that. Things are already improving. Recording? Fantastic. This is alternative power source trial number 56A.
Oh, man, those were pretty intense, guys.
Hopefully the younger siblings have gone to sleep
Yeah.
by now.
David, how are you? Speaking of thanking
Hey.
folks for the nightmares.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm doing well.
Okay, good. I was just checking because of the movies. Making sure you're doing good.
Is this the real David, or is this cyborg David, AI David?
I don't know.
Are we all living in a malfunctioning AI simulation? And that's all? Does that explain everything around us? Maybe.
Maybe.
Daniel, you want to start us off?
I would love to. Also, I don't know if I want to because I can't think of a single thing that's good to talk about because too much is good. Here's what I'll say, David. Every single second that went by, I was more and more like, my jaw hit the floor, my eyes got wide as dinner plates. I was just like, how the heck did he do that? It's amazing. Your film Malfunction actually really inspired me because I started thinking about ways of like, how can I make a movie during quarantine? It got me really thinking about that. But there's a lot here that's executed well. Your visuals, your composition, your special effects are incredible. And your use of sound. I think I'll point out one specific thing I liked. And that was actually at the end of Malfunction, not the post-credit scene, but where you're talking, the scientist is talking with the other person. And we start with the main character, the victim's body, being attached to all this. And you do such a great job at demonstrating how to direct our attention with audio. Because we see him and we hear the shh, and then we kind of go out, we see all the machinery, and we hear voices, but they don't really get our attention until just before you and the other character come into frame. We hear them kind of fade in, so to speak, get into focus. And that just is such a good job at directing with audio. So I really enjoyed that. I'd say—
Thank you so much.
Yeah, one thing I would criticize is I feel that you could remove little pieces of Malfunction, making it a bit more concise, if you will, doing some trimming, so to speak. And I'm getting nitpicky here because I think you nailed a lot of stuff really well. But I would say I would cut out the end scene with the alternate energy and perhaps worry about some shots that I could shrink down to be even more concise. I think there's a great film you've got here, a pretty good one. But those little adjustments, going back, saying, yes, how can I change up some of the pacing? How can I work with this? I think would take it a step even further. But congratulations, sir. I think one thing to ask as a jealous editor myself, I gotta ask, how did you come up with those visual effects?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know. A lot of them were things I had done versions of in previous films. Like in one of my first films, I had done the grid effect, and that inspired that. And a lot of online tutorials inspired bits and pieces of the different effects, and it all came together to create like the new thing that I had shown.
Well done.
Awesome. What about you, Matt?
So both of them fulfill my criteria I mentioned at the beginning of, do I get so pulled in that I forget about how long the film is? And just as evidence of that, the way I experienced it the first time, I watched Malfunction, and then YouTube, because you have a YouTube channel, YouTube went right on to Box. And I thought it was one continuous mind trip, because there was this, spinning circle as it was loading the next film, Box, and it went right onto that. And I thought I was getting pulled into another layer of, mind-bending complexity. And because I had kept watching because I was that mesmerized. So that is, really a testament to how well you stitched everything together. One thing that I want to point out to people who watched this on the webinar but haven't seen it on YouTube is David has done some really interesting things with the closed captions on YouTube. And I would love to ask you about that, David. So I'll just give the audience a quick background. If you turn on the closed captions in YouTube, you'll see all sorts of secondary subtext, subliminal messaging, and even some effects within the captions. So David, can you talk to us a little bit about where that idea to play with captions came from?
Well, first of all, I'm so glad you found that. I didn't think anyone would. I'm not really sure where the idea came from. There have been a lot of really good online like alternate reality games and like things that start as videos or movies, then branch off and have secondary things you can find on like websites or other videos. And I think things like that inspired saying stuff in the captions. And there are other videos that you can find if you look at the like additions and captions and stuff. And I think the idea of building a universe around a single video that most people probably won't discover is what inspired making that and altering the captions and stuff.
Yeah, so cool. I encourage everyone to Google Malfunction and find it on YouTube and turn on the closed captions because, again, it adds a whole new layer. So thank you, David. I honestly don't have any criticisms except for maybe a little age warning too, I think, for younger siblings, but you know, hopefully they're all asleep by now. But that's just a testament also to how effective you are at the sort of sci-fi horror genre. So
thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, Tamara.
Yeah. Oh man, low budget horror that doesn't have a big crew can be so tricky. And if you mess anything up, it just looks cheesy and cheap and the storytelling isn't great. And you just nailed this. I freaking loved this video. I mean, I loved both of them, but Malfunction had some incredible storytelling. When your character is going through the motions and you see them in the shower with their clothes on, that creeped me out in the best storytelling way, and the burnt toast, and it was so good. And then we got to see that whole sequence of events, and then we kind of get the why of it all at the end with the scientist and the manager. I think, it was so good. It was really enthralling. I love horror, and you clearly just get better each time you make a film, because I remember you from past film fests, and it's just really cool to see you continue on. And I love the lean into horror too. I absolutely loved it. I told a friend about it who makes low budget horror films, and it just blew me away. Super impressed by it. Was that a family member that you killed off?
Yes, it was my dad.
Good
Thank you so much.
Good sport, Dad. That's awesome. Well, you did incredible work. I loved it.
Thank you so much, and thank you all for your feedback.
Absolutely. I'm counting every second that I'm alive as a blessing.
a couple from the audience for you, David. Actually, one was a comment suggesting folks go watch the films on YouTube, also because the background visuals just sort of show up a little better on YouTube. Also, there's a question from fellow filmmaker Angelina. Did I see the Pumpkin King?
Oh, did you, Angelina? There are quite a few hidden things you can find in the background. And yes, the Pumpkin King is in the background of the box at the very end. There's a couple different films back there, actually.
Are you creating a sort of David Petratos cinematic universe?
Possibly. There are quite a few connections between the films.
Oh boy. All right, got to go through meticulously and find them all. Create a flow chart.
I love that,
all right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, David, for your films and for coming to talk to us.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too.
All right, this wouldn't be an over-the-air award show if we weren't running late, so we're going to try and bring this in not too late. First thing we are going to do is we need our audience to vote, because our judges get to give awards, but you get to give awards too. One specifically, the audience choice. And you can vote for that now. In the chat, you will get a link. There it is, bit.ly/TFF2020 vote. Go there and vote for your favorite film. Please, only one vote per person. and we will see who won that. While you do that, though, I want to thank our judges. Thank you so much for coming, for taking the time to watch these films and craft all that feedback. It's so great to have you every year. Thanks for overcoming all the obstacles that life threw in our way.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Yes, Evan, thanks for you and the library staff putting this all together and just rolling with the punches. It's been fun.
Yeah,
definitely. Well, I do want to directly thank our audience, or I'm sorry, our library staff. We'll do the audience in a bit too. You know what? Let's do audience first. Audience, thank you so much. Our attendees were so great. You're so amazing. Thank you for joining us on here. I want to give a shout out. There, you saw me from the library, but there are a lot of folks here from the library staff pulling the strings. We've got Marielle working the video. Can we see? There she is. Hey, Marielle. We've got Alice working the keyboards. There she is. And Kate has been rocking the chat. Awesome. And let me now, you know what? I think we got, Alice, do we got stuff coming in? Thumbs up. Should I start announcing some awards? All right. We'll announce awards and then we'll do a nice big round of applause for our filmmakers. All right. So I think we have a nice visual for you all. Here we go. Oh, you know what? The rest of us are going to mute our videos so that you can see it. So our awards. First category. Best acting goes to The Stolen Pennies by Angelina Shana. Congratulations, Angelina. Next up, we have our Best Screenplay or Story. The winner of that award is Historical Flashback, World War II and COVID-19 by Lydia Orda. For Best Editing, we have Spark by Jeff Buck. For Best Special Effects, the winner is Treasure by Jacob Painter. And Best Overall Film, it's Malfunction by David Petrados. And I am excited now to announce our audience favorite. The votes are in. The winner of that is, they agreed with the judges, Malfunction by David Petrados. Congratulations, David. All right, we're going to try something now. We are going to allow audio for everyone watching right now. We want you to give a huge round of applause that can actually be heard by all of our filmmakers. We'll do it in just a few seconds. I'll let you know when everyone's got their audio going. So you'll actually hear everyone that's been watching and that is so excited by all of the films that you made. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to make these films. They're so great. Everyone for taking the time to come and support the teens in our community. Oh man, I'm hearing so many echoes of myself. Here it comes. I'm gonna join the unmuting folks, and we are going to give a round of applause for everyone. In 3, 2, 1. Yeah!
Good job, everyone. Great work, everybody.
Awesome. And that 14th annual Film Fest. Thank you so much for coming, everyone. We hope to see you next year, whether we are able to do a Film Fest in person, hopefully, or if we have to, we'll see you up on Zoom.